Okay, well, here we go. I've got a can of black beans. It's the blue menu from President's Choice. It says no salt added, so there's basically 0 milligrams of salt if you're concerned about that. I open up the can, and what I usually do is drain the beans in a strainer and rinse them in the sink here. So I'm pouring them in a strainer, and I'm just going to rinse out the can for recycling, and then I basically rinse the beans, so that kind of rinses off a lot of the starch. So I'll keep rinsing it and move it around with my hand in the strainer until the kind of the foamy starch stuff goes away. So I move it around and move the beans inside the strainer with my hand, just kind of rinse it off. Just get all that starch off, help with digestibility. Shake off that water, and pretty much going to dump it in the skillet. I'm doing this by myself. My wife's pretty busy right now, so the lighting's getting a bit dark outside. It's about getting close to 5 o'clock, I think, 4:30ish. So there's just a light in the kitchen and over the stove. So here I've got a bag of frozen corn. So it's the Canadian here. It's the Green Giant Peaches and Cream. This makes it really quick. You just pour in. I'm not even measuring here. I just dump in a bunch. So it's probably a cup or two. I just dump it in all at the same time. I could potentially start the corn first, but this all works, so I just dump it in. I'm going to get a spatula. Basically, just start stirring it up a bit. Wooden spoon here. Next is a can of diced tomatoes. This is also blue menu. Low salt added. Now the diced tomatoes, they have a fair amount of liquid in them. So what I do is I strain using the lid. I just kind of strain off the juice, the tomato juice, into a container. So I'm just looking for a container. I'm gonna drain that into the container. Just use it. You can use it like a vegetable broth. Use it in soup or yeah, basically soups and anywhere you might use a vegetable broth. You can just add it to your other items. So I'm just draining that into a container here. I find if you use the liquid, it just gets too watery, the whole mixture. So, kind of did that the first time. The tomatoes have a fair amount of liquid in them too, so I squeeze it down. And then what I got left here is the diced tomatoes mostly. There's a little bit of liquid in there still. Dump that in. Nice and colorful. You got your yellows and your reds and your browns, I guess, from the beans. I mix that all together. I like to add some spice to this. I've got the cumin. I start sprinkling this on. Not a lot's coming out. This is a fairly big batch, so you can take the lid off and sort of pour more on there. I improvise a lot. I just kind of throw it in to taste. You could probably get away with a tablespoon. I'm also going to grab the chili powder. going to probably eventually use more than that. There's also a chili mix you can get in a package. That's the Clubhouse. We're trying to get rid of using those because they're kind of pricey. It's good for you have once in a while, but we eat things, the gravies and things quite a bit, so these packages can add up. And just to make it yourself using your own spices, so just that's an option if you don't have those other ones or you want to use those. I've also have a batch of brown rice that I had from, this is whole grain brown rice from earlier today. I actually had a batch, and I'm just going to eventually dump in that rice. Doesn't really need to be cooked or anything, just needs to be warmed up, so it's not a big deal. The other thing is the tortillas. I mentioned that I use these non-GMO tortillas made fresh and shipped to me from Toronto. Those are great. They're just corn and water. There's no fat or anything in these things, so I'm counting out about 10 of these things. These ones are the white tortilla. I wanted to get yellow, but they had sent me the white ones by mistake. But the first time I ordered yellow and white, and then this time, I preferred the yellow. There's a bit more flavor there, but these are good too. Mixing that in. Okay, now I'm going to throw on the rice. I also I just warm up the tortillas a bit. It makes them easier to fold in the oven. So if they're a bit cold from being in the fridge, I warm them up. So there I dump in the rice, mix that all in. So you got your rice, you got your beans, corn, and diced tomatoes and some spice. There it is. Looks pretty good, eh? Really like this meal. It's so tasty. Now I'm going to show you what I do with the tortillas. There's a bit of foil that's in the back there. It's just kind of moved. Should be just to prevent some of the spillage. So I just put these tortillas over two bars on the oven rack. Probably need to clean that oven at some point. So I just fold this over. I'm doing this myself with my iPhone, so oven mitt on one hand and trying to do this with the other. Make sure you don't touch the burners with your hand. That would not feel too good. So I just put these down. You sort of just fold them over like that, and basically you're going to put them in two rows, and the one in the back as well. I find it's better to be on the higher rack, the upper rack, because it's closer to the burner. So I'm making 10 tacos. There's 5 each. People are asking me, Bonnie eats the same amount as I do, and here's proof here that whenever I make anything, I use the same amount for both of us. So I'm making 10 tacos, 5 each. Got to put a couple more down. So there's the last one. The oven's at 400, so I'm actually putting them in before it's heated up 100% to 400. I'm going to give this another stir. So I started out with fairly high temperature, and then I lower it over time as it heats up down to simmer. But keep stirring that, make sure nothing burns, and so here we go. You see how the tortillas folded over? They kind of fold down, so they become essentially. They're not perfect like you see in the grocery store in those boxes, those packaged, but that tastes like cardboard. But these ones, they have a pretty good shape. that are crispy and crunchy, and they get a bit brown. You can see. I grab these with tongs here. Some of them kind of wrap tightly around the bars, so you kind of have to push from below on one of the curves there, kind of push it up and around the bar. Just try not to break them, but sometimes I break one, but I still eat them. You know, I still dip. I still put the bean dip on it. Here I'm putting them on with just one hand. I'm holding the camera, so it's a little awkward. I'm just grabbing some of the mixture. You see, I'm not able to hold the taco by myself. And then I put some of this extra chunky hot salsa. This is really tasty, President's Choice, which is a brand up in Canada. It's really hot and spicy, and it's nice and chunky and flavorful. You know, you might want to make your own. This is just a great one. Here it is.